Kasama pa rin natin syempre sina Sir Gab Brillones at Sir Pio Silva. At kanina nga ay nakapagbahagi na sila ng kanilang opinion tungkol sa ating topic, no? So for Sir Gab ulit, no? Sir, balik tayo sa organization, sa Break the Fake Movement. Nabanggit nyo earlier yung mga media literacy programs na ginagawa ng inyong organisasyon. Ano pa ba yung mga programa o proyekto na pwede mo, Sir, i-share sa ating mga manonood na pwede nilang pagkuhanan ng inspirasyon, no? Para labanan ng fake news?
Okay. So number one, unang-una talaga advocacy, no? Katatapos lang ng lecture ko on advocacy sa CCP ngayon. And we were talking about how a lot of people talk about fake news in the context of the macro problem. Kasi this is not an isolated problem in the Philippines. As a matter of fact, developed countries like Singapore or US are actually bearing the brunt of this evolution and consumption of media. So madami tayo nagsasuffer sa massive shifts of changes in the way we consume media. Dito sa atin, we have to really think about how we can contribute to the resolution on a micro level, sa community natin mismo. For example, merong announcement sa barangay captain nyo, tapos ikaw hindi mo siya kinokorrect, hindi mo siya fina-fact check. You're not advocating for your community because you stayed silent. You actually have to speak out. If you saw fake news in social media, you have to report it because there's an option on Facebook. That way, you're contributing to the micro efforts in resolving the issue, but on a bigger scale, you can also participate by organizing. And what do you mean by that? You can participate in training, in digital training. You can even volunteer in our programs. We have the ASEAN Digital Literacy Program right now. You can sign up in our socials, but we even have the Media Civics Lab, Fact-Checking Academy, particularly dedicated for content creators and influencers. Because I wanna introduced this idea already on the latest Pulse Asia survey, right?
Yes.
Like, a lot of the Filipinos think social media creators and influencers were the top sources of fake news.
Right.
So that way, we created a program that we can turn their influence into social good by incubating them into becoming media literacy champions. So we have a lot of suite of programs that they can sign up for, but if you do not have the advocacy, the desire to create change, you will not be able to find the solution. So it starts within you.
Right.
Thank you so much po, Sir Gab, for sharing with us yung mga activities or yung mga programs na nilo-launch ninyo sa Break the Fake Movement. Kay Sir Pio naman po, ano po kaya ang inyong mga paalala sa inyong viewers regarding sa pag-share ng mga information na nakuha nila mula sa inyong platform?
Yes. For that, I think with the shareability of information that we have right now, right? I agree with what Sir Gab said kanina about this bottom-up advocacy that even I have to also contribute because I am young, you know, I have a lot to learn also. And I need to know also how to, you know, construct certain narratives that will be able to also contribute to the active steps to help encourage and address this in accordance to, let's say, even the educational crisis that we have right now in terms of the quality concern at all levels. And with regards to my audience, to engage them in critical thinking skills because we Filipinos are handed down the tools to discuss and talk about the facts in dialogue, in a certain dialogue. And we need to know that in that depth, we need that understanding because it goes beyond just personalizing content, beyond the social groups that maybe the portions of my audience are also yearning to have, or having the courage to also know that they can be wrong and also be eager enough to help contribute that they need to also share the understanding with other people. So I'm building my audience in a way to not just receive, but to also be proactive in sharing the truth. Because we need the truth to not just be presented as a way that is just facts alone. We need to have a narrative behind them. We need to know that facts and truth, they also have a backstory. There's a story behind each of it. And it has to be as competitive as the lie. It has to combat the lie and debunk not only by fact-checking, but also by having a story to tell with a taste and humor that is relatable to it. And that is the thing that we have to focus right now because we know that truth is not enough. As my beloved friend had said also about this, that it's just not enough that we give out the truth to people without any given basis behind it. Because if just gonna receive it on the go, then they won't be able to find a way to relate to it.
Right. Thanks, Sir Pio. At being in relation nga dun sa sinabi niya, I'm sure tayo guys, at syempre si Sir Sir Pio, no, medyo makikita mo kami, Sir Gab, dyan sa ASEAN Media Literacy Program. Kasi nga,
See
di
you,
ba?
Sir Gab.
Di ba? Oo, medyo network building tayo dito sa Schoolmates. Kailangan engage tayong lahat. Kaya naman, dahil nga sinabi niyo rin, Sir Gab, na we have to be part of the solution, no? Or kumbaga, that the solution starts with us. Kung babibigyan kayo ng pagkakataon, no, ano ba ang inyong masasuggest na aksyon na dapat gawin ng ating gobyerno para matigil itong pagpapalaganap ng misguiding, misleading, whatever you call it, kind of news? So simulan muna natin kay Sir Gab.
Okay. Sige, it's a very healthy question, no? Because it's also very rich at the same time. I think a lot of people get confused as to who should be the primary actors and stakeholders in this conversation. Coming from the government, I believe na sana ang politicians mismo, hindi sila mag-a-announce ng mga fake news. For example, at the time of COVID-19, we have seen a lot of politicians who do not fact checks and claim that this is a cure to COVID, even if it was already debunked by the World Health Organization. So we'll start from there. Siguro as tayo, kung gusto natin maging change agents for our communities, let us champion truthful information only. And before tayo mag-influence ng ating mga communities, mga respective influences natin, sana i-fact check natin yung information natin by ourselves mismo. That way, we can be change agents in our community because we're actually fact-checking ourselves and we're championing the change that we would like to see in our respective areas. More than that, I also believe that the government should actually incentivize discussions between, NGO, media stakeholders, and even protect the safety of our press. I'm not saying that there is a difficult scenario right now. What I'm saying is that we have to incentivize investigative journalism, for example, or critical thinking, at least for the Department of Education, for example. We have to integrate media and information literacy curriculum. Kasi as a matter of fact, we're not radically implementing it.
Right.
And we have to make sure that critical thinking starts from the very beginning of, let's say, we introduce it at the primary level, integrate it radically in the secondary level, and make sure that the Department of Education and CHED have measures in place to actually check whether it is actually effective.
Agree.
We're doing the fact-checking literacy programs, and kapag naging member ka na ng society, you're adult already, you can unlock opportunities for yourselves. You're already ICT literate, you're media and information literate individual already. There's a lot of proactive measures the government can do, and I think it starts with championing fact-checking and media and information literacy within yourself first.
Right.
Thanks, Sir Gab. So, syempre, Sir Pio, bilang educator, no, at content creator, ano naman yung inyong masasuggest from the line rin naman ninyong mga content creators?
Yes, I think for us content creators, we have to also remind ourselves and also the people that we surround by. We can't just tell people to do their own research in a way, because we know that the majority of us maybe cannot spare the time to pay attention to things we follow. It's a very lengthy process, and in a way, there's a lot of people involved for that. So, because from the base level, we know that people will use the internet to research the issue, but many of them will also simply go with whatever biased opinion they have that is in front of them, and they will confirm it even more. And so, what I would suggest is for us to also solve it from within our friends, within our own families. We need to also remind them that maybe there are some habits that need to be changed. Maybe there are some biases that we need to kind of review all over again. My audience members, we also need to know that we are a contributor to society when we spread information. Because we know that technology just isn't the only factor, even if it is among the most highlighted, because there is a real growing threat of distrust towards the academe, towards educational institutions and scientific institutions. And it's very scary that is also happening, because of people who have given out information, but it's on a non-factual basis. So from that, we have the bottom-up structure to actually engage with people in their own micro-communities. So we may have people in government, we may have NGOs and student movements and creator groups, which I'm a part of, which I'm gladly and delightfully part of, to strengthen it. But we have to find the common ground. So I would say that there is a lack of active steps by currently in our society right now, but to help encourage it and address it is different, because we are already starting. We are already the pioneers in terms of looking at that the news can also be said and propagated in this way. It's at all levels concerned. It's not just for those who are willing to only find out about it, but also those who have not heard about it.
Right.
It's everyone who is part of this endeavor.
Exactly po, no, Sir Pio. Kung isipin natin, Trisha and Gab, para siyang virus eh. Para siyang pandemic. It's just that isa siyang infodemic. Kasi nga, fake news siya, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. So, personally po, Sir Gab and Sir Pio, ano po kaya yung mga punishments na pwedeng i-impose on those who are caught spreading fake news? Sir Gab.
Okay. Sige, very loaded question, no? Kasi marami siyang sangay na pwedeng puntahan. I would say we strengthen the way we penalize those people who actually make civil offenses. So similar to civil liability, no? We actually can make sure not only on proven and with a lot of severe implications, we can actually impose civil liability against individuals who create social or impede public fear because of them actually spreading fake news. For example, I would just want to say na fake news is currently being seen as a principled problem only. It affects you, you saw it. But in other countries and in several countries, fake news is actually lethal. You know, a certain province in Iran, for example, a lot of them died thinking that bootleg alcohol is going to cure COVID. But at that particular time frame, a lot of them, like fewer of them, actually died because of COVID. So that time, in terms of comparison, mas lethal pa yung fake news compared to COVID-19. So this is actually a practical manifestation that it's not only a principled harm, it's actually a practical harm to consume fake news. And that's when you really have to extend this to civil liability to certain kinds of, you know, parang it's not just as easy as like people will launch information online and I can go scot-free because, oh, it's just a mistake. It's just a random tirade. You know, you have to really make sure na we have to put our fences already by making sure that the fences are already there. We're building it slowly.
Right.
Thank you, sir. Sir Pio, kayo naman po. Ano po kaya yung mga punishments na pwedeng i-impose natin sa mga nagkakalat ng fake news?
True. I think with censorship and I think with also figuring out how we can learn how to make social media in a way respectable in the way we find it. I think in our own groups, we need to also figure out, in our smaller groups rather, to figure out how should we design systems that are able to tell the story more. And so in that way, we could also help figure out who are the main proponents that actually spread harmful information. Because it's not enough that we just see it after it happens. We have to already learn how to have preventive measures for not just for the elites, but not just for people who have the privilege of doing the fact-checking, but also for people who are who know or who actually know that the information is flawed and it is wrong and it is constructed in a way to give out propaganda, to give out conspiracy theories, and we need to, in a way, have that what I call proactive measure, even on all social media platforms, to make sure that it is already hindered, it is suppressed before it actually gets out and becomes something that people could already internalize and realize. Because once fake news is out, it's the sole reason of why we are not able to convince them back. And so we have to be able to make sure that when our truth is, when the truth that we propagate is constructed, we make sure that even within the small groups, we are able to outright report, we are able to outright help review what these truths are, what these facts are. And from that event and from that situation, we are able to already of it being spread to even more people.
Right. Sir Pio, meron lang akong follow-up question, no? Siyempre, since you are a content creator and you are held specifically at this time frame at a pedestal, do you believe na parang this accreditation or kumbaga pag-take down ng inyong mga channels, which we know na you guys work so hard for, especially having a wide follower base, a wide listening base, do you think this accreditation of a certain social media personality is enough to curb out at least or be a tangible type of penalty? Do you think na that's enough or should there be more? Just being more on the practical side of the question.
I think it is enough, but then in the long run, it wouldn't because it doesn't give out the idea that information will be, solidified for everyone to know. Because I think for the accreditation, we have to still have that consistently sustained, and we need people to know about it because it's not enough that because we know that truth costs data, and we know that for leaving this when we leave that unchecked, we might not be able to go back towards that, and we might not be able to find in a way we may not be able to get out of the personalization that we already have in these platforms. And yeah, as a content creator, I agree that that is enough, but then what happens after the fact? What are the afterthoughts that come after that? Because there needs to be an existence of courage and eagerness to know that it possibly won't be sustained.
Yeah.
So,
Alright.
schoolmates, guys, naiintindihan natin, no, base sa ating diskusyon na marami pa tayong dapat gawin at
Right.
pagtulungan para ma-eradicate ang fake news. Gusto ko yung sinabi ni Sir Gab kanina na yung simpleng pag-fact check sa ating LGUs, napakalaking contribution na sa ating communities.
Right.
Gusto ko rin yung sinabi ni Sir Pio na we have to be relatable.
Right.
'Di ba? Para ma-persuade natin yung mga
Yes.
tao dun sa cause natin, sa gusto nating i-advocate. Parang hindi sapat yung pag-fact check. Kailangan makarelate yung mga tao para maniwala sila sa ating advokasya.
Right.
So, Sir Pio, Sir Gab, panghuli na lamang po, ano yung gusto nyong ibigay na mensahe sa ating mga manonood, especially sa ating pong mga kabataan, ang ating mga pag-asa ng bayan? Unahin natin si Sir Pio.
Yes. What I want to give out about in relation to disinformation, in relation to this whole phenomenon that has affected our lives, and it may continue to affect us for as long as it could exist. It needs to start from us. We can't fully rely to, like, let's say, make social media free with their data plans. We can't rely fully on external measures that may be ineffective for many social groups, right? We need to also, in fact, realize that these habits that surround fake news, these habits that surround being misinformed, having disinformation, the existence on a larger scale of malinformation, they're all coming from the micro scale of people who propagate certain information that may not be even true, that may not be even in a way constructed that is helpful or that is healthy for people to know. And so we need to know when it's being aggressive. We need to know when it has a certain humor to it. We also need to know what taste are we giving out, because words matter and words have power. And so as a content creator, I always stand by that, and I always try to do my best of due diligence to make sure that whatever I talk about, especially off cam, that it is practiced and there is a certain integrity to it. Let's not forget that it's everyone involved and it's you involved.
And syempre,
Si Sir
Sir
Gab.
Gab, ano
Yes.
naman ang inyong final message din, syempre, sa ating mga schoolmates?
Okay. So, first and foremost, again, thank you for this opportunity. And sa ating mga schoolmates, no, I would like to encourage you guys to triangulate information as much as possible. You guys have the resources at your disposal to check information. I know that sometimes you don't have the time to do that, but if you have the resources, you have the capabilities, then do so. And also, I would like to actually encourage you to even take your step to the next level by more than advocating for change in your communities, sign up for volunteering programs, try to participate in as many digital trainings as possible, expose yourself to information, and then educate without necessarily trying to castigate anyone within your community. It's not through canceling, it's not through calling people out and saying that they are less educated than you, that you can actually achieve your goals. At the end of the day, participate in the community positively, be responsible with your actions, and sign up to as many educational opportunities as possible.
Right. Thanks so much, Sir Gab. No? Ayan. So, maraming salamat kay Sir Pio and
Yes.
kay Sir Gab. Pero syempre tayo na mga nasa focus group discussion ngayon. But guys, oo nga pala sa mga schoolmates natin na nanonood dyan, kung gusto nyo, join na rin kayo sa Break the Fake Movement. And of course, lalo-lalo na, makisama kayo sa aming diskusyon at mag-comment kayo sa ating comment section down below kung paano
Yes.
nyo nga ba ini-exercise yung pag-break the fake news, diba? Ayan.
Ayan.
So, guys, take away muna tayo dahil focus group discussion after every discussion. Gina, ano yung 3 highlights mo from this discussion?
Actually, ako, naglista na ako.
Yarn!
Yes. So, gusto ko yung nabanggit ni Sir Gab kanina na dapat may integration ng media literacy into the curriculum. Especially, kasi this was actually being raised before in a budget hearing ng Office of the Press Secretary nung time pa ni former Secretary Angeles, di ba? Congressman Lagman questioned kung ano nga ba yung action or your call to action, yung plans in order to combat misinformation and disinformation. Kasi other countries have been practicing integrating media literacy in their
Yes.
curriculum.
Right.
And maybe it's time for us also to do that to our country as well in the Philippine setting, right? Kasi this would be very helpful. Also, yung in terms of local setting naman tayo sa mga LGUs, diba? Tama rin naman na hindi lang tayo dapat nakikinig. Hindi lang dapat tayo followers per se.
Yes,
Dapat tayo maging isang good follower na dapat nakikinig tayo and also hindi lang tayo feed dun sa information.
Right.
We also have to check if yung na-absorb ba nating information ay tama. Para kung ibibigay man natin yun, kung i-disseminate man natin yun sa iba, tama rin yung matatanggap nila, tama din yung ma-absorb nila. And also, it was actually being proposed naman na in terms of sa ating, to recognize the efforts of our government. It was actually, the Office of the Press Secretary was also willing to work with the Congress in order to push a legislation na ma-integrate nga yung media literacy sa ating education system by using the whole of government approach.
Right.
Okay, syempre, no? Ako daw muna bago si Gab. Okay, so, key highlights, guys, no? Ang una kong nagustuhan is the fact that we do recognize na the Philippines is a shame country. It's a
Yes.
shame-fueled country. Whenever you speak online, it's all about connecting to your image, di ba? So, parang, when you say accountability, guys, let's not fear accountability. Let's value transparency. Na kung nagkamali tayo nang nasabi natin, okay, let's take it. Guys, I'm sorry, mali pala itong sinabi ko because you are already becoming that missing link to really parang breaking the chain, so per se, di ba, ng fake news. So, parang doing that accountability check also and identifying who the proper action holders are. That helps us understand sino nga ba or ano yung role natin dito. Kasi tayo parang nakikinig lang tayo para magsalita ulit. Pero
Tama.
hindi tayo nakikinig para maintindihan yung sinasabi ng kausap natin. Hence, syempre, nabanggit ni Sir Gab at ni Sir Pio na confirmation bias. So, i-accept natin, we have to change the mindset, change the habit so that we can change our ways. And this goes both ways, no? Hindi importante kung ikaw ay nasa media lamang. Hindi importante na ikaw ay isang opisyal lamang or part ka ng corporate or part ka ng academe. Everyone, regardless of your position, has to take part of it. Kasi buhay ang nakataya kung hindi tama yung impormasyon mong ipapakalat, di ba? So I think this also goes with what Gab as a leader, yes, syempre, the
Yes.
student leader, yes. Para ano yung, for you, ano yung nakita mong key highlights din sa takeaway nila? Kasi ako, I felt strongly
Right.
with what they
Yeah.
really said kanina.
Napakaswerte natin, schoolmates, sa episode na ito dahil hindi natin maitatanggi, sobrang dami nating natutunan
Right.
kay Sir
Tayo
Gab
rin mismo,
at kay
no?
Sir
Natuto
Pio.
tayo
Oo.
doon. Oo.
At nakakamiss yung magkaroon ng eksperto sa programa
Correct.
na nandito mismo.
Oo.
So maraming salamat, Sir Gab and Sir Pio. Pero schoolmates, ngayong gabi, naiintindihan natin na napaka-importante ng media, ng katotohanan at ng transparency sa demokrasya at sa nation building, no? Hindi natin ma-eradicate totally ang fake news. Napakalayo pa ng ating lalakbayin. Marami pa tayong dapat gawin, pero marami tayong magagawang paraan para makontrol ang pagkalat nito, no? Ang hamon sa bawat Pilipino ay maging critical sa mga nababasa at nakikita natin online, sa mga nababasa at nakikita natin mula sa ating mga leader, sa ating mga komunidad, mula sa nasyonal hanggang sa ating mga barangay.
Right.
'Di ba? So siguro, ang hamon din sa ating pamahalaan, tulad ng nabanggit ng ating mga guests, siguro it's time para i-integrate na talaga
Yes,
ang
exactly.
media literacy, ang responsible journalism sa ating curriculum. Dapat pag-aralan na ito at i-educate din natin mismo yung ating mga kapamilya, yung ating mga kaibigan, yung ating mga communities, no? The challenge for all of us sa mga media practitioners, sa mga scholars, sa ating leaders, sa ating organizations, private, public, is to find ways, no, to promote media literacy at maging ang responsible journalism.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
Let's shift the power imbalance, no? Let's create that power within us to really determine what is true and what is not. Kasi syempre, sabi ni Sir Pio, quote lang natin, no? Dahil nga, tayo, citing sources, no? Your words have power. You have power.